He sat there at 2:47 in the morning, staring at the rejection email that had just lit up his phone. 28 years old, college educated, and he couldn't even get a call back from an entry-level position. Ethan refreshed his inbox one more time, hoping somehow the answer would change. It didn't. He closed his laptop and whispered the words he'd been trying not to say out loud for months. I don't know why I'm here anymore. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Ethan wasn't supposed to end up here. 3 years ago, he graduated with honors, a communications degree in hand, and a head full of plans. He'd always been the creative one, the kid who made short films on his dad's old camcorder. But his parents were practical. You need something stable, his father had said. So Ethan followed the path everyone told him was right, landing a corporate job managing social media for a mid-size firm. The pay was decent, but Ethan felt hollow, writing captions about products he didn't care about. Still, he told himself this was adulthood. Then 18 months ago, the company downsized. Ethan and 12 others were let go on a Tuesday afternoon. At first, Ethan thought it would be temporary. He updated his resume, went to interviews where he smiled and said all the right things, but the callbacks never came. Weeks turned into months. His savings disappeared. He picked up a part-time job stocking shelves at a grocery store, working overnight shifts that left him exhausted and empty. His old college buddies were getting promotions, getting engaged, posting pictures of their new places. Ethan stopped responding to their texts. He couldn't bear the question anymore. So, what are you up to these days? Because the truth was, he wasn't up to anything. He was just existing. His roommate moved out 6 months later. The rent went up. Ethan could barely afford it before. Now it felt impossible. He started skipping meals, not to save money, but because he didn't have the energy to care. He'd wake up at noon, stare at job listings he didn't have the motivation to apply to, and spend hours watching videos online, trying to forget how far he'd fallen. His mom called every week. "Sweetheart, what's happening with you?" He'd give her the same vague responses. "I'm figuring it out, Mom." But the truth was, he wasn't figuring out anything. He was sinking. At the grocery store, a kid 10 years younger than him got promoted to shift supervisor. The manager told Ethan he needed to show more initiative. Something inside him broke. He was 28 years old, stocking cans at 3 in the morning, being told by someone who just graduated high school that he needed to do better. He started showing up late, not on purpose, but because waking up felt like lifting a weight he couldn't carry. Then one Thursday, his manager called him in. "Ethan, I'm sorry, but this isn't working out. We're going to have to let you go." Ethan just nodded, grabbed his things, and walked out into the rain. He sat on the curb outside, rain soaking through his jacket, watching people walk past with their lives in motion. He stayed there for 20 minutes, maybe longer. When he finally got home, there was a rent increase notice taped to his door and a letter from his bank about insufficient funds. Ethan sank to the floor and felt the full weight of his collapse. For the first time in his life, he seriously wondered if his existence had any weight at all. If he disappeared tomorrow, would anyone even notice? The next morning, Ethan woke up to an email from someone he hadn't heard from in years. Mr. Harrison, his high school media teacher. "Ethan, I was going through old files and found the short film you made senior year. I watched it again last night. You used to dream so boldly. Are you still creating?" Ethan stared at the message for a long time. The film Mr. Harrison was talking about, he'd poured everything into it. When was the last time he felt that way about anything? He couldn't remember. He opened his closet and found his old camera at the bottom of a box. He turned it on, the battery dead, and plugged it in. For the first time in months, he felt something other than emptiness, a tiny spark that whispered, "Maybe you're not done." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep, not because of anxiety, but because his mind was racing with ideas. He thought about the stories he used to want to tell. He'd buried all of that when he convinced himself he needed to be practical. But sitting there in the dark, unemployed and broken, he realized something. He didn't lose his purpose, he abandoned it. He traded what made him feel alive for what other people told him he should want. The next morning, Ethan grabbed his camera and went outside. He didn't have a plan. He just started filming. The way light hit the buildings, the old guy feeding pigeons, the barista who always remembered his order. He filmed for hours, losing himself in it. When he got home, he started editing and posted it online with a simple caption, "Trying to remember why I started." The next morning, there was a comment. "This made me feel understood." Then another, "I needed to see this today." Ethan sat there staring at the comments, tears streaming down his face. For the first time in years, he felt like himself again. Over the next few weeks, Ethan kept filming. He woke up earlier because he wanted to. He posted more videos, short films about everyday people living ordinary lives. They weren't viral sensations, but they connected with people, and that connection started to fill the emptiness inside him. 6 months later, Ethan was sitting in a filmmaking course at the community college. He'd enrolled using money from freelance video editing gigs. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills. His instructor pulled him aside after class. "You've got something real here. Have you thought about applying for internships?" Ethan admitted he hadn't. The thought of rejection still scared him. But that night, he applied anyway. 3 weeks later, he got an interview. The internship was unpaid, which meant Ethan still had to work his freelance gigs, but it was exactly what he needed. He spent his days learning from people who loved what they did. He met other filmmakers who understood the same hunger he felt. For the first time since college, Ethan felt like he belonged somewhere. He wasn't just existing anymore. He was building something. 9 months after that first video, Ethan stood in the back of a small community theater, his hands shaking. The short film he'd spent 4 months working on was about to screen. It was the story of a guy who loses everything and has to rebuild himself from nothing. It was his story. The theater wasn't packed, maybe 30 people scattered across the rows. His mom was there, his dad, Mr. Harrison. As the film started, Ethan couldn't watch, but then he heard it, people reacting. A laugh at a moment he'd hoped would land, a collective breath during the emotional turn. When the credits rolled, silence. Then, applause. Ethan looked up, tears in his eyes, and saw people standing. Not because the film was perfect, it wasn't, but because it was real. It carried his soul. After the screening, people came up to him, sharing their own stories of feeling lost. His mom hugged him tight. "I'm so proud of you." A stranger stopped him our way out. "Thank you. I've been feeling stuck for years. Watching this made me think maybe it's not too late to try again." That night, lying in bed, Ethan thought about how far he'd come. A year ago, he'd been sitting on his apartment floor convinced his life had no purpose. Now, he wasn't rich or famous. He still had to pick up freelance work, still had moments of doubt, but he had something he didn't have before. Purpose. Not the kind the world told him he was supposed to want, but the kind that made him feel alive. He'd spent years chasing what other people valued, trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for him. And when that fell apart, he thought he'd lost everything. But what he actually lost was the weight of pretending to be someone he wasn't. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like Ethan? Like you're going through the motions but not really living? So many of us end up there, not because we're lazy or broken, but because we've been told there's only one right way to live. Someone watching this right now is sitting in a job they hate. Someone else is unemployed, terrified they'll never find their footing again. Someone is about to give up on a dream because they've been told it's not practical. But here's what Ethan learned. Purpose isn't something you find sitting on a shelf. It's something you build, one decision at a time, one small step at a time. It's choosing to pick up that camera, or that pen, or that idea you've been too scared to try. Think about the last time you truly felt alive. Not happy, not comfortable, but alive. That moment when you were so absorbed that time disappeared. That's your compass. That's the thing pulling you toward who you're meant to become. And I know it's terrifying. The practical side of your brain is screaming about bills and responsibilities. But let me ask you this. What's more terrifying? Taking a risk on yourself? Or waking up 10 years from now realizing you never tried? What's the one thing you've been telling yourself you can't do? Write it down. Say it out loud. And then ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? What if the only thing standing between me and a life I actually want is the story I keep telling myself? Drop a comment below and tell me, if you could do anything with your life, no limits, no fear, what would it be? And if you're going through something like Ethan, if you're in that dark place wondering if things will ever get better, leave a comment too. You're not alone. There are people watching this right now who understand exactly what you're feeling. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community here of people who refuse to settle for lives that don't feel like theirs. People who are brave enough to ask the hard questions and chase the answers. Ethan's story ends with him in that theater, surrounded by people who saw him for the first time in years. But your story is still being written. Every choice you make is another page. So what's it going to say? Are you going to keep playing it safe? Or are you going to take that first terrifying step toward the life you actually want? Purpose isn't found, it's built, one small step at a time. The moment you stop running from who you were always meant to become. And maybe that moment is right now. Your life is calling. Are you going to answer? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel for life-changing stories.